Hi everyone, my name is Miss Winnie. If you don't know me already, I am a geography teacher at Royds Hall. So I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about geography GCSE. I'm going to talk to you about, first of all, what course we do at Royds Hall and what sort of topics we would learn within that and how it is assessed. Then why studying geography might be good for you, and then what sort of options it would give you if you did decide to choose it. So we do AQA at Royds Hall, and with AQA, it is assessed via 3 exams. So at the end of year 11, you would have 3 separate geography exams to complete, and they're split quite evenly. So you can see here, paper 1 is 35%, paper 2 is 35%, and then paper 3 is 30% of the overall GCSE. So paper 1 is called Living with the Physical Environment. So this is all about physical geography, the natural world. But within geography, we always look at how physical landscapes interact with people. So we do always study them sort of both together because they link very closely. Paper 2 is Challenges in the Human Environment. So this is looking at people, but again, we always look at how they interact with the physical environment. And then paper 3 is slightly different. This is called Geographical Applications. And I'm going to explain a bit about that in a little second. But you can see there's different topics within each paper, but all 3 papers have this, which is geographical skills. So throughout all of the exams, you will get assessed on skills as well. So that's a little bit like what we do at the minute in lessons when we look at things like describing a map, describe the distribution of something on a map, or describe a pie chart or a graph. So it's using your geographical understanding to interpret resources, and that will be assessed throughout all 3 exams. So I'm just going to go into a bit more detail about some of the topics that we study in each paper so that you can get a good idea of what you would be learning in geography. So paper 1, like I said, is all about the physical environment. And within that paper, we study lots of different things. The first topic is hazards, and that is all about things like tectonics. So we look at how tectonics can be hazardous. We look at earthquakes and the impact that they have on people. We also look at weather hazards. So we look at things like hurricanes and how they impact people. And we also look at the issue of climate change in this topic. And again, we look at it in terms of the causes of it, why is it happening, and then again, how will it impact people and the environment. We then go on to look at the living world, which is all about ecosystems and biomes. So we look at different biomes around the world, and then we focus in on 2 specific biomes, and we do rainforests and deserts. And again, we look at how these interact with people. So how do people live in these areas, and how are we impacting them, sometimes in a negative way. And then our last topic in this section is called UK landscapes. So we look at rivers and coasts. We look at all the different features found in these areas and how they were naturally created. But again, we do look at how it impacts people. So we look at things like river flooding and how that can impact people. And we look at things like erosion on the coastline and how that could impact people who live there. And then how those things could be managed by putting in protection measures, for example. Then we go on to paper 2, which is, like I said, all about the human environment. So this is more about people, but again, we do look at that in context of how we impact the physical world as well. So we look at urban trends, things like mega cities and how they've developed and why they're growing still. We look at specific cities, so we look at Rio at the minute, Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, and some of the challenges faced there. Then we look at London currently, and again, we look at what challenges are faced there with so many people living in one area, and some of the sustainable ways of living within large cities. We then go on to a topic which is all about development. So you'll know quite a lot about this because we're doing this at the minute in geography. We go into some of the things you will already know about, like all of the development indicators and how we decide how developed countries are. But then we start looking at things like reducing the development gap and how can we improve lives for people. We look at how tourism might help in some of these areas. We look at how TNC, so remember they are the large companies, like Coca-Cola, for example, how does them being in an LIC impact the people there for the positive and for the negative. We look at political and trading relationships and the environmental impact of development. We also then look at the UK and its economy and things like the north-south divide and how that impacts people like us in the north. And then we look at the last topic, which is energy and food and water. So it's looking at resources. So like I said, food, energy and water. And we look at how things like where does our food come from? How does that impact the environment? Where does our energy come from? How can we get it more sustainably? So loads and loads of things, again, in that topic, linking to humans, but always looking at how they impact the environment. And then the last paper, like I said, is a little bit different. So the paper 3 is based on a booklet that we get with lots of information in it, lots of maps and graphs and information, and we get that before your exam. And what we would do then is we would spend time studying all of that information, and you'll get asked questions about it in the exam. And it's usually a problem solving question where you would have to decide whether something should go ahead based on the information you have been provided. So for example, question last year was, should this road be built in a rainforest? And you'd have to look at the positives and negatives of it and then come to your own judgment. And then the final part of paper 3 is your field work. So you would go on a trip, and we were hoping to go to Bridlington this year, but obviously that hasn't happened. But you go to somewhere like the coast, and you study, collect data yourself, collect that information, and then you get asked questions about it in your exam. So that's quite a nice one because you've gone and done that yourself, and you get to go on a little trip to collect all your information. So that's basically what you'll be studying in geography. Now I'm going to tell you why you should study geography, or why it might be good for you to study. So what's really good about geography is it's so broad. You've seen me talk about all the different subjects that you could learn within it, and they're so broad and diverse that it means it's quite useful if you don't really know what you want to do yet. Because you learn so many different aspects in geography, it can be quite useful because it almost links to everything that you do. So if you wanted to go on and do something else, geography most likely would link to that somehow. It requires lots of different skills, and that's quite good because it means you're doing things like extended answers, but you're also doing things like interpreting sources. There's math skills included in there, and you go out and do field work yourself. So there's something within that you're going to be good at. So if you're not very confident with extended writing, there's lots of smaller questions within the paper. If you're not very confident with maths, there's lots of other styles of questions. So it's a broad mix of questions rather than just all being essay based. So that's quite good. It also means, again, it's very versatile. If you want to go on and study something else in the future, you have a wide range of fields from geography that you can apply to them. It's also obviously based on the world and what's going around us at the minute. So it's very relevant, again, for lots of different things. And the last point is that Russell Group universities classify geography as a facilitating subject. So Russell Group universities are some of the top universities in the UK, and they classify geography as basically a subject that they would like you to study if you want to apply to one of those universities. Obviously, there's a list of other subjects, so things like the sciences, I think history's in that as well. So it's not just geography, but it is one of the subjects that they see as being very useful. So I'm not going to go into all of these, but basically we have lots of transferable skills in geography that, again, you can apply to lots of different things that you go on to do in the future. So it's very useful, I think, if you're not quite sure what you want to do yet, because you can apply lots of things you do in geography to basically anything that you go on to do in the future. Things that you might want to think about if you do pick geography, you could go on to do lots of different things with it. So you could, if you really enjoy it, just go on to do A levels in something like geography or geology, but it also links to subjects like politics and economics, as well as environmental sciences as well. Or you could go on to do, if A levels aren't for you, something like a BTEC in travel and tourism, or agriculture, or environmental health. So lots of options available. And then just some career opportunities that would link to geography. Again, there's so many because geography is so diverse. But these are just some examples of what people tend to go on to do if they do study geography. So things like architecture, geoscientist, logistics manager, urban planning, architecture, politicians. So loads and loads of different options available with geography. If you do have any questions, I know I've talked quite a lot about lots of different things, but if you do have any questions, please do come and see me or Miss Townsley. We will be more than happy to help you if you have any further questions about studying geography at GCSE.